Happy Monday morning. The pre-market game has just changed, and most agents aren't noticing this. You're not going to pay attention. You got to pay attention right now. Things are changing. They're changing fast. They're going to continue to change. Let me take you back for a second. Most people were focused on lockdowns, uncertainty, just trying to survive in 2020. But in real estate, something big was happening. Something big was beginning to boil. The National Association of Realtors had rolled out a rule called clear cooperation. You probably remember this. It was simple on paper. You just were required to put a listing in MLS if you were going to publicly market it. Within 1 day of publicly marketing, you had to have it on MLS. Sounds fair, reasonable. However, at the time, we're like, well, how do you actually do that? If I take a listing today, that means I have to be on the market tomorrow. I can't feasibly actually do that. I can't get all the data I need to do, take pictures, get this thing marketed properly to represent the client well. The whole goal of this was obviously to protect the consumer. Transparent, right? Wants to be fully transparent, make sure the consumer knows that, that MLS is the single greatest marketing tool of all time. And if you weren't in there, you were not going to get the activity you wanted. That was the argument. I don't disagree. MLS has been a great tool for a very, very long time. During this time, one side said that it was good for the market. It would stop pocket listings. It would give all buyers equal access. It would create fairness. No more secret deals, no more off-market deals. But there was another side. The other side said that this takes away strategy from one agent and one seller to another. This forces timing. It kills some of the flexibility that may be needed to represent your seller to what you and the seller believe is the best way of moving forward. It doesn't actually serve every seller because not every seller wants their home blasted everywhere on day one. Some want control of other parts of the marketing puzzle. Some want to test the market. Some want privacy. So what happened? Did private marketing go away during this time? No, it just really, like anything that gets regulated, it went underground. Agents adapted. There was a form that rolled out that we had to have signed by every seller that said you're not going to be on the market for such and such period of time, and therefore we're not going to publicly market. But you could publicly market to your brokerage internally. You just couldn't market to the public broadly. So this pitted brokerages against brokerages. The larger brokerages still had coming soon opportunities to market to the thousands of agents in their brokerages that many of them don't know each other. They're just representing their customers, their buyers, their sellers. But your independent brokerages had very little opportunity to do this. You couldn't publicly market. Everything had to be privately marketed. But it didn't really stop anything. The truth is, clear cooperation wasn't really about cooperation. It was about control. Control of listings, control of data, control of timing. This has been the battle that we have been fighting for so long. And for a while, the control sat inside of MLSs, the National Association of Realtors, which, really is the group that requires participation. They require you to participate in the Association of Realtors. If your brokerage is a member of the Association of Realtors, they require you to be a part of your state Association of Realtors and by way delegate authority of marketing to local MLSs. But this is 2026. Like the MLS in 2000 was next level, right? It was the way. I mean, when I was coming up, we were hearing about the books of old, in the early 90s. There were books of listings at your local association. The realtors controlled inventory. You were the only way for someone to know that something was listed for sale other than word of mouth. But we're in a different world now. Transition to today. Now we've got lawsuits. We've got brokerages fighting with the portals. We've got companies trying to control listings, distribution, and ultimately attention. We're in an attention economy. Compass started this battle by pushing private inventory. They wanted to have exclusive private inventory amongst their entire brokerage. Now they have since bought more brokerages and have become the largest real estate brokerage, the largest conglomerate of agents in the world. And therefore, the rules for which we all abide would give access to their coming soons internally greater exposure than most other brokerages, any other brokerages, because they're corporately owned by a primary brokerage. They came after Zillow. You've got Zillow pushing for everything to be public. You've got new alliances forming with companies like Redfin and Rocket Mortgage with Compass because Zillow wouldn't play ball the way they wanted to play ball. Everybody says they're looking out for the consumer. Everybody is also looking out for themselves. It totally makes sense. It's a control war. Who controls the listing? Who controls the exposure? Who controls the lead? Over the weekend, or at the end of the week, we have news that EXP has made a move on this storyline. Now, Leo Pareja has been extremely vocal against Compass that we need to be looking out for the consumer. We need to ensure cooperation in our industry. We need to ensure that we have the ability to work together. Almost the bigger these companies get, EXP, Compass, Zillow, the gorillas in the room, the more we need to cooperate. The more exposure for the consumer needs to matter. Now, I don't know fully where I stand on this because I know every seller has different needs. I think we should have a little bit more opportunity to strategize with our particular sellers. But I think that's ultimately the question is that what anyone is after? Or are they after monetizing listing inventory on their particular sites, trying to do more internal deals? Or is it for the consumer's best interest? That's the question. So starting April 15th, EXP is launching coming soon listings. Now, there have been coming soon listings already within EXP, just like Compass has attempted to roll out. We had a portal where we were able to put coming soon listings. Now, I'll speak to this from my perspective. Very rarely does coming soon make sense for a seller. I just don't find that many opportunities where it makes sense to try to find the needle in the haystack compared to mass exposure. Now, what you may find is as you move into a hyper luxury market, there's a smaller buyer pool. You want more discrete listing visibility, maybe. And therefore, you can still carry out the same objectives because you know everybody is not a buyer. You're not looking for mass exposure. You're looking for ultra wealthy, right? That may pose different challenges. And I know the clear cooperation solution was not ideal. It just seemed like a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. But EXP is now partnering with Realtor.com, Homes.com, and Core Home, which is effectively a Google company. House Canary is a company that Google owns, and is partnering with these three companies to launch coming soon opportunities. These are non-exclusive in the way that Compass was attempting to be exclusive in their coming soon listing. Like this gives you an ability to pre-market to the public before being officially listed in MLS. I like that it's not exclusive. They didn't pick just a single platform. They said, go everywhere. It's leverage. It's exposure. That's giving the seller, the opportunity to build anticipation for when that home comes on the market. Now, let's zoom out for a second because inventory is slowly building. Buyers are still active, but cautious. Rates are still hovering in the mid sixes, low sixes, 6, and the portals are still fighting harder than ever for attention. Homes.com is spending a massive amount of money. They're still trying to break into the into the residential real estate market. Homes.com, if you don't know, is owned by CoStar, parent company. Parent company CoStar has been the commercial powerhouse for many, many years. And I would make the same argument that they're struggling with Homes.com is because they are working, generally speaking, on a spend basis. They buy market share and they expect the agents to spend with them in a large way. I don't know how sustainable that is in 2026 and forward. I think this is a first move for them to actually do something that gets eyeballs on them in a different way, which is probably positive. Realtor.com still has a lot of traffic. Google is stepping into the game. Google will always, if they're playing, will always be a powerhouse. But it's a battle of distribution. It'll be interesting to see what Zillow does. Just this weekend, Zillow announced that Compass is abandoning the lawsuit, affirming that Zillow's pro-consumer listing standards are going to be upheld. So they're going to stay in their lane. However, it'll be interesting to see what they do now that EXP has made a move with other companies. Zillow welcomes Compass's decision to voluntarily withdraw its meritless attacks on Zillow's pro-consumer standards after the court ruled that its complaint failed even the most basic legal hurdles and was unlikely to succeed. The underlying issue remains. Private listing networks undermine fair access to real estate information and are not in the best interest of the consumers, and they never have been. Real estate works better when information is open and accessible. To the extent Compass continues to limit transparency and harm consumers, agents, and the marketplace by hiding listings in a private network, it is at odds with Zillow's standards, which remain fully in effect. The distinction is simple. Zillow believes in broad public exposure and access to listings. The Compass private exclusive listing network is hiding them. So this was a press statement from Zillow based on Compass dropping their lawsuit. So we're in an interesting time. I think what we've got to make sure we do is stay privy to the information as it is coming out. We've got to stay on the forefront of making sure that we are representing our sellers with the utmost opportunity. We also have to make sure when we're representing buyers that we are understanding where listings exist and where we can go find them. Sometimes our opportunity to find listings that are in a coming soon may be the difference in being ready to act and not ready to act. Because if I have a week before I know I can show a property to someone, I have time to do some initial due diligence, do a, market analysis for them, and make sure that when we go see it, we've got all of our ducks in a row, we can act quickly. Now, the question will be, and I have this all the time, when someone knows I've got a listing that's going to be coming on market, you have agents that will beg for an opportunity. You've got a neighbor that wants in before anyone else. The question we've got to answer, and you've got to just make some decisions on how you're going to handle these situations. Is this in the seller's best interest? Is this going to yield them the highest price? Are we going to bend on our price and our terms for a neighbor who just happens to conveniently be aware that this is going to be coming to market? I would argue that very rarely do those situations play out well. And that's from experience. That's not just a guess. The experience shows that someone who wants in early, wants you to give early, they may or may not be best suited to buy the house. They may not be that cash buyer that needs to be in something by the end of the week. They may not be the one who has lost out on 2 or 3 homes just like it and is willing to bend on things that need to be done to the house, on their accepting of the price. You've got to make sure that when you go to market, you find the best buyer who is not just the highest price, but the most likely to get to closing. I warn you that anytime we let someone in and they are operating as the only buyer, they feel, one, like they're doing you a favor, that you don't have to go to market. And sure, that's a favor. But this is where the cash investors play. This is where the open door companies play, because they believe they're doing you a favor by not forcing you to show the house, not forced to deal with showings. But what is dealing with showings? Yes, it's hard, but why? Why is it worth it? It's worth it because it yields fruit. It yields better buyers, more committed buyers. I mean, we can always sell a house effortless for less than it's worth. That's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. So who's going to win in these portal wars? I don't know that this is a battle to be won. It's a period of time where we're going to see some things change. It's not about which platform is best. The question is, how do I get my listings in front of the most people possible? Because the best agents don't rely on one platform. They stack their exposure. It's really easy right now to blame all the things that are going on, to be distracted by a lot of this nonsense. Which company is better? Which leadership is better? I think you've got to do your own research on that. You've got to make sure you're partnering with the right company that does the business you want to do, is going to help you have success in representing your customers well. Because I really do believe, for the most part, we are all after building a business that allows us to compete, allows us to sell against the other company, and also to represent the customer well. And sometimes some of those things are in conflict, and that's the challenge. So here's what I want you to do this week. Number 1, build a coming soon strategy. Get to know what your company's coming soon strategy is. Not just, we'll list it next week. That's not an appropriate coming soon strategy in this market moving forward. A plan. How long do you need to market in advance of actually going to market to make that coming soon time worth it? You need to make sure your photos are done early, your stories are built, your buyers are notified, your social content is ready. You got to treat it like a grand opening. You got to have a movie trailer, that allows you to market these listings properly. 2, you need to call past sellers. Ask them one simple question. Have you thought about selling, and maybe you didn't want the pressure of going fully live? That is a big commitment. We now have opportunities to market without being fully listed on the market. That conversation will open doors for you. If you got the right price, would it be worth it? Number 3, audit your last 3 listings. Be honest. Did you build demand before the launch, or did you just upload and hope for the best? Number 4, create one piece of content this week, why smart sellers do or don't go live right away, why your coming soon strategy is the best. You've got to have your own independent thoughts on how you are going to position yourself. You will appeal to your market based on your thoughts on how you're going to use this coming soon strategy. Number 5, start saying it to every seller. Would you want your home seen by the most buyers possible? Do you want to market before it actually goes live on MLS for showings? Do you think that would be beneficial for us to create more demand before we go live? If so, what is your plan? How do you build out that strategy? So it used to be fairly simple. We'd put it in MLS, you wait, you hope. The best agents don't do that, but that's what everyone thinks. But now there's timing, there's exposure. You've got to be a strategist. Clear Cooperation tried to standardize the market, but the market is evolving faster than the rules. So we've got to be ahead of the rules. We got to understand what is in our customers' best interest. And the agents who understand that are the ones who are going to win right now. We are moving into a market of a lot of opportunity. We've been very patient. The time is now. Make sure you're not left behind understanding all of these details on the coming soon conversation.